All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling. We talk about all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage, curtain drama. We also talk about superstar news. We talk about inactive statuses and injury updates. We talk about the contract negotiations, extensions, and signings. Talk about promotions like WWE, AEW, New Japan Professional Wrestling. If it makes major news headlines in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show 1010%. So, we're just going to reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our WWE SmackDown talk and preview, and then we talked about TNA and also Ring of Honor, last night. And now we're going to dig into some Judgment Day breakup. So, this has obviously been the hottest topic ever since you've kind of seen Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio, along with Raquel Rodriguez, kind of become their own like little stable a little bit. Also, when Damian Priest left, well, not Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were kicked out of the Judgment Day, which was probably like the bad decision. But obviously, in terms of storylines, maybe it will make sense in the future. But as of right now, holding the WWE World Tag Team titles, seems like JD McDonagh and Finn Balor really don't. I don't know. It just don't. I feel like it's dead. I feel like it's dying. Like it. You need to have a tag team division on Raw, especially it's a 2-hour show now. So now it needs to be part of the teeth of what's going to happen on Monday Night Raw to draw viewers. So as of right now, kind of holding those titles, that's like really the only glory they have. It's like the last thing they have left before if they lose it, then them as a group would and a faction should probably break up as well. There's been a lot of speculations, recently in the news media about Carlito possibly getting a singles push. I wouldn't be against it. I know he's a little older, and kind of thinking about it right now, where exactly would he wind up? He's not really intercontinental champion, material. Maybe having a babyface turn. I don't really see how that would make a lot of sense. But I feel like the best way for this Judgment Day to kind of ultimately break up is Finn Balor. Finn Balor. I feel like he will squeeze out some of the dead weight. I can see him and Dominik Mysterio kind of, but see, that's another thing in itself as well. Like, where does Finn Balor perfectly fit on WWE SmackDown or even WWE Raw? Um, as the leader of the Judgment Day, which I feel like he's not really. I feel like they should absolutely break up. Finn Balor deserves to have, a singles push more than any of these guys. JD McDonagh is, holding on by a thread on the roster because of this Judgment Day storyline. Also, I would say Carlito and also, well, Dirty Dom, is kind of with Liv Morgan. So, she's the WWE Women's World Heavyweight Champion. So he's here to stay. So I don't think he would be really going anywhere. Recently you did see Liv Morgan introduce Raquel Rodriguez to everybody, being like, okay, this is the Judgment Day, welcome to the Judgment Day. So they're bringing in new people. So, I was ultimately kind of an advocate for them bringing in somebody like big and bad, kind of being that right-hand man of Finn Balor. Kind of like, I would like to see Bronson Reed join Judgment Day. I feel like that booking would be interesting, because he already kind of has that Judgment Day kind of mentality where he's going to go out there and just, wreck everyone and leave and, stick his nose into other people's business and try to make a name for himself, especially with Seth Rollins coming back to the after injury. So, Carlito with the singles push, I don't really like it. Finn Balor kind of squeezing everybody out to the point where maybe he brings back, or like where I think he had an interesting entrance, and I know could have probably most likely just been an entrance, um, but I don't know. It was kind of like a Prince Devine kind of thing mixed with like the Demon and kind of the old Finn Balor. I kind of liked how Finn Balor was. Right now, I feel like he is on that verge of finding something big for his future in WWE. Keeping this whole Judgment Day storyline is kind of keeping these superstars afloat. They're definitely going to need them when they move back to 3 hours in January. But as of right now, I just don't see this. I don't see this faction working. I just don't. Maybe they make it an all-girl Judgment Day. I'm just kidding. No, and Dominik Mysterio is still. I'm just kidding. No, that's messed up. But Raquel Rodriguez. That. She's a good spot. She's bringing in that not like a Rhea Ripley kind of feel because she does have that like that big, bad, strong intensity. Like this is my brutality kind of feel for Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. You know, I'm not a Liv Morgan hater. I'm not. I'm not. 1,010% I could say I'm not. But I do think she's a better championship chaser than she is champion. So now she's going to only, hold the championship, obviously, because of Raquel Rodriguez, which is, which isn't bad because a lot, that kind of ultimately explains what exactly heel is inside of professional wrestling, where they're winning by cheating, by outside interference all the time. Like, look what happened, like, when, the judgment, and the bloodline with Roman Reigns. But because Roman Reigns has already established himself as a superstar, he went into matches, people still thinking that he can win without the bloodline. Liv Morgan has not established that same credibility. Not at all whatsoever. The opposite, actually. So it's all right, but it does weaken her state a little bit. But as of right now, it's probably it's a safe move right now to keep this faction, relatively like noticed on Monday Night Raw. But they've got to be careful with the bookings here. They definitely got to be careful because you know, you don't want things to like, happen and just not make sense. Obviously, that's the thing that, confuses the WWE universe and kind of, more like that, hands on there, like, you know what I mean? Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? You might do something for the shock factor. It might make sense for about a week or so, maybe a month tops. But then after that, it's like, all right, now what's the point? You know what I mean? But, um, JD McDonagh, he's fantastic inside the ring. Obviously he was in uh, NXT UK, I think it was, and he was like a high flyer. I would love him more or less. If he wins like a speed championship or something like that. The more gold you bring to a faction, the more prominent they become on the roster. But as of right now, I just feel like that the Judgment Day seems like it's not going to be the best thing in the world. It's not going to be it's not going to be in the future. I guarantee you, within the next couple of months, I feel like they're going to break up. I'm not trying to be a hater, not trying to be a hater, whatsoever. But ultimately, it's I don't know. I just want it to make sense at the end of the day. Got a chat from my man, Kervin Abreu. Thank you, my man. Glad to see you inside the chat. Brother, I wish Triple H would stop doing a lot of triple threat matches and tournaments because no longer feels special. Yeah, it could desensitize the special feeling that somebody could get watching like a match like that. Some tournaments, I feel like would like you said, if it's too much it just doesn't make sense and it feels like they're just once again doing it for the shock factor, doing it just to kind of make matches seem a little bit more prominent. Triple threat matches as well. I'm down with the triple threat matches, but it's been really popular, and I believe it's been more popular more on like WWE, NXT as well. Like having those matches means that the champion could lose they can lose the championship belt without necessarily being pinned, which kind of gives them an out. Like you saw with Trick Williams at NXT Heatwave, he was never really pinned, but obviously we all saw how that turned out. But Triple H, so far, there's a couple of things that kind of leaves me obviously shaking my head, and I'm like, it's hopefully it's building toward a better future. Triple threat matches. I think the only triple threat. No, I don't even know if I'd want to see that as well. The United States Championship match, the LA Knight, and then you have Carmelo Hayes and Andrade both coming after him. So I would feel like it would be kind of necessary to have a triple threat match to kind of, end it all and kind of, but then what's the storyline? What's Carmelo Hayes' storyline, without feuding with Andrade and then Andrade vice versa? I know and then AJ Styles getting injured, unexpectedly. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. All in all, I just hope that, WWE, like I said before, and like what, Curvin Abreu is talking about here, just don't want to see, senseless matches. We don't want to see, too much of something because then it loses kind of loses its touch and its excitement and stuff like that. But, going back to the Judgment Day breakup, right now it feels like it's necessary. The time is now, you know, um, they might be able to keep it going for like another, you know, month, maybe a month to 3 months tops. But I would love to see Finn Balor go absolutely berserk and absolutely, just like leave Judgment Day, maybe kick everybody out, maybe perhaps bring back Gallows and Anderson, maybe bring back the Bullet Club would be interesting. But Finn Balor, obviously after getting injured at the, during his SummerSlam after he won the inaugural WWE Universal Championship against Seth Rollins. His character bookings were never really the same. You know what I mean? It's and he's getting older. I think he's like what, 40? I think he's 40, 41. But obviously, he's the best 41-year-old looking guy I've ever seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like the guy's still, that guy's swole, man. He's cut. So he definitely has a future in WWE. I want to see it sooner rather than later, to be honest. So, having the Judgment Day breakup could definitely be, the best for Finn Balor. I don't know if it would be the best for JD, Carlito, Dominik Mysterio, or maybe in fact, Liv Morgan. But Liv Morgan right now, her and Dominic and Raquel kind of have their own like little storyline going, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. All right, guys. So, hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to jump on into our fourth segment. We got a confirmation that WWE Raw and SmackDown are indeed moving to 3 hours in January. We're going to talk about that when we come back. So, hey, do not go anywhere.